Whispers of the Wild Map, a novel-length story of reunion, mystery, and the magic of the forest. Chapter 1. The Pull of the Past. Elia often felt the city was too loud for her thoughts. Even her morning tea trembled from the rumble of passing subways. That day, the silence between train stops had grown unbearable, and a familiar thought took root. I need to breathe green air again. Meanwhile, in a quiet Denver suburb, Mason stared at his cluttered garage. Among the forgotten paint cans and dusty toolboxes was a weathered hiking pack, his old companion from teenage summers. He didn't know why, but something about the scent of leather and pine urged him toward Windleaf Woods. Kaya had been tracking rare insects near the Appalachian Trail for a new photo series. One night, under the stars, she dreamed of a circle of trees surrounding a giant stump, glowing under moonlight. When she woke up, her fingers were already typing Windleaf Forest flights. Theo, teaching music at a small school in Seattle, was drawn in a more symbolic way. He'd been replaying memories, wondering where the spark of life had gone. That morning, a song he hadn't touched in years resurfaced. It was the Beacon tune, something they'd made up at the stump all those summers ago. That was all it took. Unknowingly, each of them was being summoned. Chapter 2. The Beacon's Call. Windleaf Woods hadn't changed much. The trails still curved like veins under an ancient canopy, and the wind still carried a rhythm known only to those who listened long enough. Elia was first to arrive, the wheels of her bike crunching down the old trail, her breath catching as the beacon's clearing came into view. She stepped off and stood there, her hand touching the great stump's weathered rings. "Still here," she whispered. Then came a shout. "No. Freaking way." Mason emerged, carrying a small gas stove and looking like someone who had just seen a ghost. "Elia?" He laughed. "You too?" A twig snapped. Kaya stepped into view, camera slung around her neck, her boots covered in dried mud. What is happening right now? Finally, Theo jogged in, clutching his water bottle. "Did I miss a reunion email, or are we all hallucinating?" The four of them stared, laughter bubbling up. No one had planned this, and yet somehow they were all there, in the same place, on the same day. "I haven't been back here since high school," said Kaya, spinning slowly in place. Theo stepped up to the stump and grinned. "You think it called us back?" "Don't joke," Elia said, but her voice trembled with a kind of joy she hadn't felt in years. Chapter 3. The Forgotten Pouch. Mason was the one who tapped the hollow in Sentinel, the oldest tree in the grove. The deep thud echoed strangely. "Guys," he said, reaching inside. "There's something in here." Out came a weather-stained leather pouch. Inside, a hand-drawn map, impossibly old but legible. The paper was lined with cryptic symbols, impossible trails, and a red X. In the lower right corner, in flowing cursive, WWM. Elia's breath caught. "My grandfather," she whispered. William Merrick, a local cartographer who disappeared in Windleaf 15 years ago. The same man who told bedtime stories of lost trails and enchanted glades. Many thought he'd gotten lost, or worse. But Elia never believed he'd simply vanished. Mason stepped closer. "Are you okay?" She shook her head. "Number, but I think we just found a trail he wanted me to follow." Kaya examined the map. Some of these paths aren't even on modern surveys. This is ancient. Theo's eyes gleamed. Well, if this isn't fate, I don't know what is. They agreed. They would follow the map, not out of obligation, but because the forest was offering something, an invitation, a second chance. Chapter 4. Into the Thicket. Their first day on the trail was slow but filled with laughter. They navigated using landmarks only barely visible now. Stones worn smooth, gnarled trees twisted into shapes like runes. Kaya documented everything with her camera. Moss patterns, animal tracks, even the shadows at dusk. At night, they made camp by an overgrown stream. Firelight danced across their faces. Theo strummed quiet chords, and Elia read aloud from one of her grandfather's old poems she'd brought for comfort. They were no longer just old friends. They were companions on a quest. "I forgot how alive this makes me feel," Mason whispered. "Yeah," Kaya replied, "like we're finally walking towards something that matters." Chapter 5. The Route Maze. On the second day, the trail became rougher. Vines tangled around their boots. Birds screeched in warning from above. The compass, once helpful, now spun erratically. "This is unnatural," Elia murmured. They reached a clearing shaped like a spiral, roots twisting in impossible geometry. In the center was a stone monolith, cracked down the middle. On its base, the same initials, WM, etched into the rock, was a message. "What is buried is not forgotten. Step with memory, not with fear." They camped there that night. In dreams, Kaya saw William Merrick standing beneath the trees, smiling sadly. Chapter 6. The First Rift. The journey began to wear on them. On the third day, tensions flared. Theo wanted to backtrack and recheck a fork in the trail. Kaya insisted on pressing forward. Elia and Mason argued about a broken water filter. But as they sat that night, silent and tired, Elia finally spoke. "I think the map isn't just about a location. It's a test, to see if we can still move forward together." No one spoke for a long time. Then Theo picked up his guitar. "One song? Then truce?" He played the beacon tune, and slowly, voices joined in. Chapter 7. The Lake of Fog. On the fourth day, they reached the hidden lake. Fog clung to its glassy surface. In the center, a marble gazebo half sunken in water. They lashed branches together into a crude raft. It floated. Inside the gazebo, they discovered a sealed wooden box and a riddle, as before. This time, though, it felt sacred. This wasn't just about solving a mystery. It was about completing a story. The box contained the second map. Smaller, sharper. It didn't lead forward, but back, to the beacon clearing itself. They stared at each other. "Full circle," Mason said. Kaya nodded. "Let's go home." Chapter 8. The True Destination. When they returned to the clearing, they followed the last part of the second map, this time digging beneath the stump. Just 6 inches under the soil, they found a final message in a waterproof case, a letter from William Merrick. "If you're reading this, you have rediscovered not just this forest, but yourselves. Windleaf isn't a place. It's a memory, a spirit, a bond that grows when people walk its paths together. My greatest treasure wasn't gold. It was the time I spent walking beside people I loved. Let that be yours, too. Epilogue. The cabin in the trees. They didn't return to their old lives in the same way. Mason quit his job and started a trail restoration project. Kaya released a photo book titled The Forest That Remembers. Theo wrote an album based on their journey and toured small towns. And Elia? She stayed. They built the cabin at the beacon. Now, every year in July, they return, sometimes alone, sometimes together, to sit beneath Sentinel and talk, sing, and remember. On the mantel inside the cabin is the compass rose, the original map, and 4 Polaroids. One for each day they spent rediscovering who they were. And etched into the doorframe, above the cabin's entrance, reads, "To those who return, the forest never forgets."